and welcome to Racer TV. I'm Rachel Ayers.
And I'm Rodney Smith, 5-time GNCC champion.
We're making the 10th stop of the Grand National Cross Country Series here in Yadkin, North Carolina. Rodney, Yuha didn't win here last year, and he doesn't even really need to win today. But do you think he's going to be out there trying to win?
Well, Rachel, with 4 races to go, he's got a commanding points lead. Barry won here last year. Yuha had a little bit of bike problems. I think he's going to want to show to everybody that he can come here and win almost at any track. I know he doesn't have to, but I know Barry, on the other hand, is going to want to show everybody he's won the last 2 races, and he's still Barry Hawk, and I think he still wants to win some races.
This has been one of the first tracks that we've had all year that has actually been dry. Who do you see coming out as strong riders in the dry conditions?
Well, I think we're going to have some good racing today. The dust isn't really going to be a factor. I don't think the mud's going to be a factor. We had some rain earlier this week, which has made for some good conditions. I think you're going to see Glenn Carney on the 250 RM Suzuki run up strong like he did earlier this year with dry conditions. I think you're going to see Shane Watts on a new 254 stroke with some new motivation. He's going to be running strong. I think you're going to see Fred Andrews and some of the other guys out there. I think with these type of conditions, you can see a lot of other guys going fast.
This track always has some fun obstacles out there. We have the pipe that they go through and also the house. Is that fun to go through?
Yeah, definitely. It's always different when you come into a house and there's a bunch of people standing there watching. You got to get through those door frames that are kind of narrow. So that's going to end up for some good entertainment.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a great day of racing. Let's head down to Jason and get a better look at the start.
All right, thanks a lot, Rachel and Rodney, down here at the start for the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. The big question is, can Yuha Salminen regain the momentum that he had early in this series? Barry Hawk, Charlie Mullins have definitely caught on to the rear fender and maybe even gotten in front of Yuha, with Barry winning our previous race at the Wisp. If they are going to hold on to the momentum they've captured, they need to continue doing it right here, right now. If Yuha Salminen wins today's race and Barry Hawk finishes 3rd, the championship is all locked up for the KTM rider out of Finland. So Barry Hawk needs to continue his winning days today and try to stave off Yuha Salminen's championship drive. Let's take a little closer look at the racetrack they're going to do battle on with our Scott USA helmet cam.
All right, thanks a lot, Jason Wygant. As we jump out onto the trails, you might have heard this is a very tight race course. Somewhat virgin terrain in the 2005 racing season, and not much better here in 2006, although it does look like things have widened out just a little bit as we take a look at some of those trails, but still not a lot of passing opportunities out there on these trails in the Yadkin Valley of North Carolina, but still should offer some great racing action as it did last year. Conditions were a lot dustier than what they are here in the 2006 racing season, so things should tighten up quite a bit, and it should be a rather competitive race day. As you can see, your typical GNCC trail, some uphills, some downhills, some rolling hills, some steep hills coming up here and there, some gullies and some gulches, if you will, as well as plenty of exposed tree roots, rocks, and well, lots of ruts, and that's what these riders are going to be faced with whenever they're out here on the trail. Several miles of this and some grass track sections as well, but mainly this is where these riders are going to be racing, and they're inside that house. We're not taking a ride on the helmet cam, but during the first couple of laps of racing, we're going to see those guys actually going through the house. We got some creek crossings, and here is the tunnel or the pipe that Rachel was talking about in our opener there just a few moments ago. As you can see, muddy water and somewhat deep conditions. The thing is, with this muddy water, you really don't know how deep it is, so these riders are riding blindly through that section of the race course. As we take a look at our point standings, and with 180 points heading into this 10th round of racing, Yuha Salminen pretty much has a lock on the championship points race, although with 97 points back in the 2nd place position, Barry Hawk's going to try to hold off letting Yuha celebrate as long as possible. Charlie Mullins been having a phenomenal year, but as phenomenal as it has been, there's been a couple of races that haven't treated him so well. So Mullins back in the number 3 spot, and Glenn Carney doing real good in the dry conditions here in the 2006 season, but the last couple of mud races, Carney has been struggling just a little bit. Will he be able to get things put together here in these dry conditions of this Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC, located out of Yadkinville, North Carolina, a very, very beautiful community, and one that they call the wine country of the East Coast there in the Yadkin Valley. A lot of wineries around this area. You know, we salute the folks at the Yadkinville Chamber of Commerce as they are big promoters of this event. They love GNCC racing coming to town, and we love being there. There's a good look at Charlie Mullins as he gets set to go racing here in the hills of North Carolina. Glenn Carney saying, thank goodness that we have dry conditions, and that number 3 FMF Suzuki pilot could be a force today, as well as this rider right here riding that brand new 4-stroke that KTM's got out right now. Can Shane Watts put it all together here this weekend and maybe start capitalizing with some better results than what we've been seeing? We've seen him get on or near the podium a couple of different times, but just not able to get up there. We'll see if he's able to do so here this week at the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. As you can see, even the Air traffic is excited about the GNCC here in Yadkinville, North Carolina. A good look at the power line that runs through the middle of the property. And this is some of the grass track section that you can see. And you can see there, too, how rolling the terrain is. So a lot of terrain change and elevation change out there for those riders. Ricky Towery, our official GNCC starter, getting ready to get these guys off and rolling into the woods. And the green flag flies. And when it does, the kickstarts go down and off and rolling into turn number 1 we go. And it looks like Yuha Salmon will capture yet another hole shot in our Racer X Hole Shot Awards. And we'll take a look at that again here in just a few moments. But look at this. Charlie Mullins down in turn 2. He's getting off the line dead last as they head into the woods as we take a look at that start one more time from our Racer X Hole Shot angles. And there we go into that first turn. You can see these riders trying to beat Yuha to that first turn and that first turn marker there out of the first turn for the hole shot and that extra $100 from Racer X Illustrated. But he had the best line heading in. He had the best line heading out as we head down the road number 2. 4-stroke A, 0 to 300cc and 301cc plus. Guys like Justin Munsrud, Morgan Green, Andrew Matuzik, Brett Zofchak, Mark Lewis, Brad Spivak, and more as we head down to row number 3 now. It's our 250A class. Some of the future stars coming from out of this class, guys like Jesse Robinson, Scott Watkins, Travis Green, Thad Duval, Jeff Bowman, Brian Gunther, Elmer Simmons, Joe Marsh, and more as we head down to row number 4 now. It is our open A class. Only 8 riders in this particular division. What a battle as we see the 33 machine of Chris Mazzelli into that first turn. Robert Patterson, also Frank Gallo, Mike Monroe, and more. Row number 5 is going to be our vet A. 30-plus years of age and older, guys like Phil Smith, Russell Epley, Kevin Korn, also David Sickle, Brian Bolyard, and more. So we head down to row number 6 now. It's going to be our 200A class. 200A class, 12 riders in this one. Caleb Russell, William Gilliland, John Bennett, Tony Hall, Charles Hugel, Todd Moraine, Mark Fortner, and more as they battle it out through those first couple of turns. You can see riders that get to the first turn first sometimes don't get into the second turn first as they might go a little too wide or whatever the case may be. Row number 7 is our senior A class. 8 riders in this one, and Dennis Decker, the 441, going for his 10th consecutive hole shot, and looks like he might have pulled it off here in the 2006 racing season. Row number 8, our open B class. 7 riders in this one. The 639, Lupe Lambruno, another hole shot expert. Going to be tough to beat in that class as well aboard the 639 out of Cadiz, Kentucky. Other riders out there, including row number 9. And this is our 4-stroke B classes, the 0 to 300 and the 301cc plus. As we see, it looks like that 544 of Lucas Towery might have got the early lead, but whether he held on to it out of turn number 2 is another question. Looks like he might have dropped off to about a 4th place position. So they're going at it nip and tuck already on row number 9. Row number 10 rolling next, and the green flag is up. The kick starts are down, and the number 99 getting off to a good start there. I believe that is going to be Kenny Blacksheen out of Diamond, Ohio. He's joined by guys like Corey Buttrick, Jordan Sane, Eric Lees, Chase Bishop. By the way, this will be Corey Buttrick's first ever race on the big bike as he's already cinched the youth class championship. Down to row number 11 now. It's our 200B class, and these guys going at it. 20 riders tackling that first turn. Nick Rowden, Doug Fox, Scott Grills, and more as we head down to row number 12 next. This is going to be our Bet B, the plus 30 riders in the B class, and there's 20 riders in this one also. And riders to beat going to be Sean Remington, Doug Brodeur, Brett Williams, and even Todd Vest. Keep an eye out there for that number 903 Suzuki. Kickstarts are down for row number 13. Our final row, the Senior B 40 plus class. Lots of traction heading up into that first turn, and it looks like Robert Williams was going to have credit for that first turn hole shot, but don't know if he was able to hang on to it. Keep an eye on him. Ricky Joyce, Wink Radford, Danny Presley, Todd Mountain, more as we head out to the 2-mile marker. Yuha Salmon already capturing the early lead. Carney in second, back in third. The number 2 of Barry Hawk. And look at this. Jimmy Jarrett picking right up where he left off in previous races in a 4th place position. Paul Whibley, who runs 5th in the points, is now up to a 5th place spot. 6th spot, Fred Andrews. 7th spot, Robbie Jinks. 8th place, Cole Calkins aboard the 187. Christopher Robinson running in the 9th place position. Shane Watts rounds out the top 10. We've seen the 618 back there in the 11th place position. That's Brian Henson out of Landrum, South Carolina. Going to see him every once in a while. Another rider we see every once in a while. He's out at every race, but has only been able to make a mark a couple of different times. The 14 of Nate Canning we see there. The newest pro on the starting line out there, I believe, was the 59 of Garrett Edmondson out of Vero Beach, Florida, riding with Fred Andrews on the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Out near the 3-mile mark now. It's still Salmon being followed by Carney and Hawk, 1, 2, and 3. They're pretty nip and tuck right now. There's 4th place, 158 of Jarrett. 5th place, though, 275 of Whibley. Still holding steady back there in 6th place, Fred Andrews, former champion of this Grand National Cross Country Championship Series. And speaking of former champions, there's the 2000 GNCC champion, Shane Watts. And it's a new life Shane, if you will. Brand new bike here in the latter part of the season as he is testing and tuning for that 2007 season, what she says may be his farewell tour. We'll just have to wait and see. Garrett Edmondson trying to keep him honest up there as he's knocking on the door behind the number 23 of Brian Lawson, the Adams, Massachusetts rider. As we take a look at these riders once more at the 4-mile marker, it's Salmon and Carney. Barry Hawk still in 3rd. Jarrett still in the 4th place position. Paul Whibley still in 5th. Andrews still 6th. Robbie Jinks 7th. Cole Calkins 8th. Shane Watts 9th. Nathan Canny now up to a 10th place position. So Canny is working his way up through the pack right now. There we see the number 9 of Watsy, who is running in the 9th place position. And there's Canny. But look at Canny. He's got Lawson, the 618, right behind him as we've got a battle shaping up for that 10th place position. Look at this. Charlie Mullins slowly but surely working his way up through the pack right now as he's got some major ground to make up. It's going to be tough starting behind the 8 ball like that. Salmon and Carney and Hawk 1, 2, and 3 at the 5-mile mark, and the gap beginning to open up that much more, and it looks like things are tightening up for that 5th place position as the 158 of Jarrett feeling the pressure from the 275 of Paul Whibley. Again, if you don't remember, Paul Whibley out of New Zealand is actually ranked 5th in the points heading into this round of racing, and he's kind of like a protege, if you will. Scott Summers, 5-time GNCC champion, took this rider underneath his wing and gave him a sponsorship ride, and also is giving him a little guidance out there as the Parts Unlimited Moose Racing Honda. Good to see it still out on the trail here at the GNCC, even though maybe Scott Summers not going to be riding. There's Dustin Gibson, the 911. He's coming up out of that second row, the 4-stroke A 0 to 300 and the 301cc plus classes. So he's working his way up into the tail end of the pro class. Meanwhile, through the pipe here at the 6-mile marker, no change, nip and tuck, 1, 2, and 3. As it looks like that little bit of gain that Juha Salminen made over Carney right there coming out of the creek is the kind of mistakes or the kind of things that happens that lets the number 111 of Juha Salminen stretch things out over the course of time. But we'll see whether or not. Whoa, what was that? Looks like Shane Watts coming up out of there, a little greasy, trying to go to the inside of that tree, and it wasn't the tree that grabbed him. It was actually some grapevines that was hanging down of the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. Grabs that handlebar and slams him right straight to the ground. He'll lose that 9th place position as we see Nate Canny making his way by now, and he is going to move into the spot, as will the number 618 machine now. Again, Brian Henson from Landrum, South Carolina, moving up and around the number 9 of Shane Watts. And way back there in about 15th spot, we see the number 4 Ampro Yamaha of Charlie Mullins. There's the 577 ThumperTalk.com Yamaha of Christopher Robertson. Now, Robertson was one of those 250A class standouts last year and actually even in this 2006 racing season, but he was kind of struggling due to bike failures, mechanical problems, and stuff like that. So they said, well, we see that your pace is pretty good. Let's see how much it is on the pro pace. So they decided to put him on the pro a few races of this 2006 season, see how things work out for him. Looks like we got some changes up front, as we saw there a moment ago. The number 111 being followed by the number 2 of Barry Hawk. Carney dropping off to a 3rd place position. Meanwhile, they continue the jockey back and forth, and there goes Watsy from 10th now into a 9th place position. So makes the pass. Charlie Mullins back in 11th place position, so he's worked his way up a couple of spots over the course of the last mile or so. As we wrap up lap number 1, it is Salminen. It is Barry Hawk in the number 2 spot. And where is Glenn Carney? There we see him making his way in now aboard that number 3 FMF Suzuki. Back and forth, Jimmy Jarrett on the Andrew Suzuki, and Paul Whibley rounding out the top 5.
Hi, this is Jack Penton with the KTM Off-Road team in today's KTM Product Spotlight. KTM makes the most complete line of off-road racing and riding motorcycles. We have over 25 models specifically for off-road riding. Everything from 50cc in the 2-strokes up to 300cc in the 2-strokes, and in the 4-stroke models from 250 through 550, the big guy. All of these models are specifically made for off-road racing with off-road racing in mind. All these great KTM models are available at your local KTM dealer, and that's today's KTM Spotlight.
Lap number 2 as we pick the action up. Look at this. Barry Hawk in 2nd place, stuck in the doorway of the house. Rodney Smith had said it in the opener that it was tight through there, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Glenn Carney still holding on to a 3rd place position. Jarrett in 4th, but you know, a little miscue by Barry Hawk there just a moment ago is going to be just enough of breathing room for Juha Salminen to begin to open things up, and that could spell disaster for Barry Hawk and his his chances of staving off Juha Salmonen's championship wrap-up here at the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. You know, riding through a house is not something you typically do on the trail or in a race, but it's kind of a neat new addition to what we've got here at this Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. We ran it last year. We run it again this year as we pick the action back up near the 3. It is still Hawk right on the rear wheel of Salmonen. Now, he got stuck in that doorway, but it doesn't look like Salmonen was able to break away. But both of those guys are starting to stretch it out a little bit over the number 3 of Kearney. Meanwhile, back in that 4th place position, we can see that things are really starting to heat up there and tighten up. And they're getting closer and closer while the top 3 are beginning to stretch things out. There goes the number 4, Charlie Mullins, a rider we're used to seeing in the top 3 or 4. He's way back in the pack trying to make up ground right now as our leaders make their way through pit row for the first time. It is still Salmonen being followed by Hawk, and back there in 3rd and trying to make up for lost time, the number 3 of Glenn Kearney. But we've got changes back in 4th places. Nate Canny has moved up, and Fred Andrews now into the number 5 spot. As we see Robbie Jinks now running in 6th and 7th place. Shane Watts, 8th spot is going to be Paul Whibley. 9th place, Cole Calkins rounding out the top 10 there. He is your Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki rider of Garrett Edmondson aboard the number 59. And right behind him, Charlie Mullins, who's trying to catch up to these 2 riders right here of Salmonen and Hawk. Again, Nathan Canny up to 4th. Fred Andrews is 5th. So what happened to Jimmy Jarrett and what happened to Paul Whibley? Well, Whibley dropped off to an 8th place position, and Jimmy Jarrett's just plain old dropped off. We haven't seen him pretty much since the finish line as he checked in with 1 lap complete. So they continue their battle. No changes. It's still Robbie Jinks 6th, 7th is Watts, Whibley 8th. Mullins is now up to a 9th place position, and Cole Calkins drops off to 10th. So we're seeing some changing taking place here in the early part of this race as these riders are trying to prove themselves in these final 4 rounds of the 2006 Suzuki GNCC racing season. They haven't made their mark. They want to make as much noise as possible in the latter part of the season to try to either secure or re-secure that factory sponsorship deal, or maybe open some eyes so they might have the opportunity of signing on to a factory deal for the 07 season. We'll see how that all shapes up for those guys as we head down near the 6-mile marker now, and you see the crowd is beginning to gather as Juha Salmonen makes his way through the Suzuki Special Test section of this race course, and the water only up to about the foot pegs or so, but just enough to cause problems for some of these riders if they come barreling into that water too much and suck some of them up into one of their air breathers. It could seize the motor real fast or shut things down pretty quick anyway. Kearney just trying to pick his way through it. Here comes 4th place right now. It is the number 14 of Nathan Canny. What a strong ride for him as we get set to head to New York, and what better time for him to start peaking than before we head to Unadilla, where he almost won his first ever GNCC just a little under a year ago. There is Fred Andrews. There's Shane Watts. We see Robbie Jinks also up there, and Charlie Mullins is now getting to the mix of things. Now that Mullins has caught on to the lead pack, the 2nd pack of the leaders out there, you got to wonder if he's going to be able to work his way up through, and if he does, will he be able to then reel in Glenn Kearney? And then what about Hawk and Salmonen, who are up front and trying to walk away from the rest of the field out here on this very tight, rough, and rugged race course at the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. 9-mile mark now. Salmonen still out front. Hawk still in 2nd. And look, no sign of the number 3 of Glenn Kearney back there in the 3rd place position. He comes through just a few seconds down. But, you know, remarkable for this rider right here. This is the best ride that he's been able to put together in several rounds of racing. As traditionally we know that Glenn Kearney is not the best of mud riders. He'd started putting things together in the mud races, but something clicked in the other direction for him a few races back in one of those mud races, and he just has not been able to shake that monkey off his back. But now that things are dry, he's got the confidence level back up where it needs to be, and he is charging hard. You see there, Charlie Mullins trying to take a little shorter line through one of the deep mud holes out there, or could be a deep mud hole as the day progresses. Not able to make up any time there, but later in the race, that could become an important line for him. Still, Salmonen and Hawk, and now at the end of lap number 2, in 3rd place, the number 3 of Glenn Kearney. Still Nate Canny in 4th, and Fred Andrews rounds out your top 5. Up to 6th place now. Looks like the number 9 of Shane Watts. Let's take a look at that Suzuki leaderboard now and see how things are breaking down officially. It is Salmonen, Hawk, Kearney, Nate Canny in 4th, and Fred Andrews rounding out your top 5. Time now to take a look at our Rocky Mountain Rider Tip of the Week.
Hello, I'm William Yoakley, Pro ATV GNCC racer, and I'm here this week with the Rocky Mountain Rider Tip of the Week. This week's Tip of the Week is protection. We wear a lot of protective gear on our bodies, and one of the more critical ones is the chest protector. I like to wear the ProFlex chest protector because it offers a unique design that features fully adjustable shoulders, a front panel, and rear panel to allow for the perfect fit. The arm guards offer maximum roost deflection and are also removable. These chest protectors are available in clear black, red, blue, yellow, and orange. Another really important piece of safety equipment that we wear on our bodies are knee and shin guards. The ARC ProFlex Knee and Shin Guard is a high-impact plastic knee and shin guard that offers full coverage protection even above the knee. It features a pivoting hinge for ultimate protection and comfort and has biofoam padding with air channels to allow for ventilation and is fully adjustable and padded strap. You can find these and other great ARC products at RockyMountainATVMC.com.
Picking the action back up now at the 2-mile marker. Salmon still out front of Hawk 1 and 2. There you see him going by. And right now, Barry Hawk is keeping Juha Salmon from capturing that championship. But if he finishes third or further back, then Salmon will clinch the championship here after 10 rounds of racing in this 2006 racing season. Hawk, it doesn't look like he'll be able to win that championship, but he's going to try to keep Juha from doing it for as long as he possibly can and hope for maybe something to fall in his favor. But the way that Juha Salmon is riding and the way things have been going for him, don't expect that to happen. Look how tight those woods are. Not a lot of opportunities just to say, okay, I'm going to go out here off to the right just a little bit and try to blaze a new line. You're taking a lot of chances when you do that as we head down to the pit rows for the second time, and our first stop on the third lap of racing. Both Juha Salmon and Barry Hawk are both in, both are out, and Glenn Carney could make up some ground here unless he decides to stop, and they wave him on through here on this third lap of racing. They look like they think they might have one more lap in that Suzuki, so we'll see whether or not that's going to pay off for him or not. There's the number 9 of Shane Watcher, 2000 GNCC champion, on board that 4-stroke KTM. See him in, we see him out, a dump of the water down the back. Shane Watts readjusts his goggles, and he charges into the race, ready to roll and ready to rock. He wants to be up there with Juha Salmon and Barry Hawk, challenging for the win when this race is all said and done. And if he continues to ride like he is right now and charge hard, he might be able to pull that off. But look at that three-way battle now that is shaped up for the first place position. Salmon and Hawk and Carney, and still back there in that number 4 spot is the number 14 of Nathan Canny. But the riders that we're watching, or at least one of the riders we're keeping a very close eye on, is that number 4 of Charlie Mullins, who is inching his way ever so closely to the overall top 5. As we check our leaderboard once again, is Salmon and Hawk, Glenn Carney, Nate Canny in 4th, Fred Andrews in 5th, Charlie Mullins is running 6th, Shane Watts up to 7th now, Whibley in 8th, Robbie Jinks drops off the 9th after that pit stop, and Justin Williamson now moves up into a 10th place position to round out your top 10. And Williamson coming off one of the strongest races he's had of his young pro racing career at the WISP GNCC when he actually posted his first podium up there just before the summer break. So he's riding high heading into this second part of the season. So we'll just have to wait and see whether or not that wave of confidence he is riding, Justin Williamson, the number 12 machine, whether it's going to push him to the front and let him challenge. Back out near the Suzuki Special Test section at the 6-mile mark. It's still Salmon, it's still Hawk. In 3rd is still Glenn Carney. As tight as things are right there, not taking the pit stop, tighten things up. And look at this. Fred Andrews has now moved into a 4th place position as he's gotten around the number 14 of Nate Canny. But Canny still right there knocking on the door. And this race for 4th is not over yet. Up to 6th place now. The number 4 of Charlie Mullins as he gains another spot. 7th place. The number 9 of Shane Watts as he's also working his way up through the pack right now on that 4-stroke machine. Paul Whibley running in the 8th place position. 9th place. The number 5 of Robbie Jinks, and now rounding out your top 10, it is the 59 of Garrett Edmiston. Out near the 9-mile mark now as you see some lap traffic beginning to play a factor in today's race. And look at that, these Yamaha boys out there telling the number 2 of Barry Hawk to go through the water. Don't go to the outside. You can save a little bit of time by going to the inside, and every fraction of a second really counts here. You've seen the number 14 of Nate Canny trying to go in and under, and Charlie Mullins using that exact same line there on the inside of that tree, but still not hitting the water hole. And there goes the 187. That's Cole Calkins. He busts the water. He's not afraid of it. Salmon wrapping up lap number 3 now as we got another one in the history books. Hawk still in 2nd, still in 3rd, the number 3 of Carney. But next time through the pits, is Carney going to have to stop? And is he going to lose every bit of time that he was able to make up? 4th place now, the number 10 of Fred Andrews. By far, quite possibly his best consistent race so far in the 2006 racing season. And Nate Canny rounds out your top 5. There is Mullins now now up to 6th place as lap 3 in the history books. The Suzuki leaderboard tells the same story. And back there in the 7th place looks like the 187 now of Cole Calkins as he's starting to work his way up through the pack. Back out through to the house now. We're going to see if these riders are not going into the house this time. They're actually going around the house. And I'm not sure why that is, but must have had some bottlenecks or something going on there. So the course marshals directed them around. And now look at this. We're well into some lap traffic. And riders like Charlie Mullins are not going to be able to capitalize on things like this. Neither is the number 9 of Shane Watts, as they have got to work their way through some of that tough traffic. And I know those guys do not like to be passed, and especially don't want to go a lap down, but it's too late. The leaders have already gone through. And speaking of leaders, look, we got a change up front. It is now 2nd place ride, the number 3 of Glenn Carney, and charging hard still aboard the number 10 Pro Circuit Kawasaki, the Monster Energy machine and the Monster Energy man himself, Fred Andrews. He looks like he may be on a mission here today at the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. You hear Juha Salminen yelling at the lap traffic. Yeah! Yeah! You got to wonder if that's something in finish or if that's just some scare tactic that he's picked up over here in the U.S. There's Barry Hawk's wife cheering him on, and there goes Carney into the Suzuki pits as expected. So every bit of time that he made up that last time, it's not going to work for him so much, or will it, as these riders are into that lap traffic. At least he got through a lot of that lap traffic and won't have to battle with it by himself now as he's back out and rolling. You see Rodney Smith out there, originally scheduled to run this race, but actually a little bit under the weather this weekend with a little bit of flu. Charlie Mullins in now. He's getting a little water dumped down his back, getting a fresh pair of those Scott goggles, some Klotz Racing gasoline, and he is off and rolling. Hot Rod Charlie Mullins off and rolling here at this Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. Well, the contenders have all made their pit stops. Let's stop in and check in and see how things are going.
More than likely, yeah. If U-Haul stops, we'll stop. I just didn't want to separate the two of them. I want to keep them together, and so if he stops, we'll stop.
Everything went good. He got gas, got some water on his back, got a drink of water and some goggles, and he's on the charge. He had the fastest lap the last time through the barrels, they said, so he's on the move. He's charging.
Yeah, we pitted on after 2nd lap, so we need to give a little gas blast, maybe on the last lap or 2nd last lap. It depends on the situation. If Barry Hawk is still right behind, we may try to break the gap somehow, gas a little bit earlier, or maybe leave it all the way on the last lap. We see. We should know after this lap.
An hour and 2 minutes is too short for us, and we're totally comfortable at an hour and a half, and that's what it was. So I wanted him a little closer to those guys when they pitted, so he could have gone by, but now, if he can close the gap to them, they'll stop again, and hopefully we'll go by.
Looks like Shane Nally's got it all figured out. Actually, all these guys pretty much got a lock on what's going on. Barry's just following Juha's lead, at least at this point. But Shane Nally, the one thinking this one through, I think, the most. He is using that clock and those pit strategies to his advantage out there. There's the Robbie Jinks aboard the number 5 KTM, as he's still got plenty of company and lots of KTMs following in behind him, pro and amateur. You see a lot of those KTMs out on the trail. Charlie Mullins trying to get through that lap traffic right now as he bumps into one there just a little bit out near the 5-mile marker now here on lap number 4. Still no change up front. It's still Salminen and Hawk. The only change that we've had is that the number 3 but Glenn Carney actually did get in between those two for just a little bit, but since then it's been checkout time for all 3 of those riders, especially for the top 2 of Salminen and Barry Hawk. And Carney right now on these dry course conditions is trying to do everything he can to keep them in sight. Special test section once again brought to you by Suzuki. No changes as our leaders still very nip and tuck through there, and a little further back in the pack as you can see that looks like maybe some problems for the number 10 of Fred Andrews, who was up to 4th place and was charging. He might have been charging a little too hard. Look at that. Charlie Mullins is already well up into the top 10. Nate Canny also having problems. We see him falling off now here on this lap of racing as he is back there now contending with what looks like about a 9th place position with the number 59 of Garrett Edmondson. There's Paul Whibley, the 275. Looks like after his pit stop, some things kind of not working out to his advantage, and 187 of Cole Calkins. So things are jumbling up quite a bit a little further back in the pack. And again, Glenn Carney has caught these 2 front runners, and we've got a 3-way battle for the number 1 spot. And look at that. The number 5 of Robbie Jinks is now running in a 4th place position. Actually, that's Shane Watts. Robbie Jinks is now 5th, so it's Salminen, Hawk, Carney, Watts, and Robbie Jinks in our Suzuki leaderboard. Now we head back to the house one more time, and look at that. 1, 2, 3, wheel to wheel to wheel as they make their way by the house section once more. Back in the 4th place position is is the number 9 of Watts. 5th place, the number 10 of Freddie Andrews. Andrews is riding on a rail today. He was up to 4th. Watts has gotten around, but that's no big deal to the former champion of Fred Andrews aboard that number 10 Pro Circuit Monster Energy Kawasaki, as we see that both those guys former champions, and that could be a epic battle for the 4th place position when this day's all said and done. There's the 111 of Salmon. Where is the rest of the field? There is Hawk coming through now. Looks like he might be about 5 or so, or maybe even better seconds back, pushing close to 10. Big air by the number 3, the former Australian motocross champion of Glen Carney. Still in 4th place is the number 9 of Shane Watts, and Andrew still rounds out your top 5. And up to 6th, the number 4, Ampro Yamaha rider of Charlie Mullins. You got to wonder, did Mullins spin himself early in the race? We'll just have to wait and see. Let's check in with Rodney and Rachel.
Well, we're coming around for the second pit, and Rodney, it's coming down to pit strategies.
Yeah, definitely, Rachel. It's a three-man race right now, and both the Yamaha and the KTM guys pitted on lap 2. Glen Carney went 3. The race is going to be a 6-lap race. The Yamaha and KTM guys need to pit this lap, and that gives them 2 laps to catch back up to Glen, providing Glen's still right behind him. He's going to take over the lead on this stop right now. If the Yamaha and KTM guys don't decide to pit and they wait till the last lap, that only gives them 1 lap to try to catch back up to Glen and make the pass before the finish. So me as a racer, I'd want to stop on this lap right now.
Well, we're going to keep our eye out. They should be coming by momentarily.
Good strategies from Rodney Smith, and here comes the leader, Juha Salminen. He's not stopping this time around, but Barry Hawk does. Maybe Barry's got something up his sleeve. We'll have to wait and see. There's the number 3 of Carney. He's dropped back just a little bit behind those two as far as time is concerned, but on that final lap of racing, it's going to pay off for him. He's going to be able to close that gap on Salminen unless Salminen is able to stretch things out. Now that he's by himself, usually when Salminen gets out front by himself, he's able to start riding a little bit more of his own race out there and pick and choose some of those lines that he normally wouldn't show these guys behind him when they're very close. Look at this. Speaking of very close, the battle for second very close, and Barry Hawk has dropped off the 3rd as Carney's gotten around. Looks like that momentum coming out of the pits belonged to the Suzuki rider. Still in 4th place, the number 9 of Shane Watts. He's riding his heart out here today. In 5th place, the number 10 of Fred Andrews. Now, Andrews was challenging Wattsy for that number 4 spot, as it was Andrews' spot for quite some time, but now it looks like maybe Fred Andrews is satisfied with 5th, as Mullen's still back in 6th. He's not pressuring the former champion of Andrews just yet. There is 7th place rider, the number 5 of Robbie Jinks, but he is trying to challenge the youngster of Mullins. There's Garrett Edmondson now running in the 8th place position. 9th place at 275 of Paul Whibley. Again, the New Zealander on that Parts Unlimited Moose Racing Honda as he inches his way out of that pipe section there at the Suzuki Special Test. Out near the 9-mile mark now. Salminen still by himself. Carney in 2nd, now by himself. What's going on with Barry Hawk? Now the Barry Hawk's back in 3rd. If he stays right there or goes back even further, that means that Juha Salminen is going to be able to clinch the championship here in the 06 season. And I know that Barry Hawk does not want to let that happen, so he's going to try to work his way up and around the number 3 machine of Glen Carney here as the race progresses. A 6-lap race. 4 in the history books, working on 5 right now as we're nearing the completion of that 5th lap. And here it is. It is Salminen by himself at the barrels. Here comes Carney getting that white flag aboard the number 3 FMF Suzuki now, as he's got some comfort between himself and that number 2 of Barry Hawk. So whatever happened to Barry Hawk after the pit stop out there, it is really playing some major head games on him as this race wears on. Look at things starting to dust up. Last year, it was nearly dangerous to ride behind some riders out there because of the dust flumes that would come up off those rear tires. This year, it's not been much of a problem through the woods and a little bit out in the sections you see out here, but not as bad as what it was last year. But we are starting to see things dry up as we look at the Suzuki leaderboard. It's Salminen followed by Carney, then Hawk in 3rd, Shane Watts in 4th, and the number 10 of Freddie Andrews rounds out your top 5 as we head out near the house and we see some lap traffic pulling out of the way for Juha Salminen. Are they as kind and as nice to the number 3 and the number 2 of Carney and Barry Hawk, as we see that Barry Hawk's got a little bit of lap traffic between himself and Glen Carney now as he's got to try to battle not only the track but also those riders out there. 4th place, the number 9 of Shane Watts, by far his strongest ride so far in this 2006 season, consistently from lap 1 to lap 2. He's gotten up there and he's been holding steadily up there in that 4th place position. Still in 5th, the number 10 of Fred Andrews. Again, another good consistent ride for him. That is Robbie Jinks now running in the 6th place position. What happened to the number 4 of Charlie Mullins? 7th place, the number 59 of Garrett Edmondson now. Edmondson runs in 7th. 8th place at 275 of Paul Whibley as he gets the gimme by Charlie Mullins. And there's Charlie Mullins. He is off the side of the racetrack, actually being towed back to the pits. What is the problem with the number 4 AmPro Yamaha rider of Charlie Mullins, who had some bad luck there toward the end of the first part of the season, and looks like he's picking right back up with it now. In the offseason, he had some good races, took some wins, and actually running up front in a lot of big races out there. So you got to wonder what's going on with Charlie Mullins in the GNCC as Barry Hawk skying it out over some humps in the woods. And look at this, the number 111 of Juha Salminen. That's something we don't see a lot of sometimes, and that is styling and profiling and showing off. And it looks like that Salminen is doing just that as he heads down pit row, and he's got a healthy lead over the rest of the field. I think he knows and feels that the championship is at hand for him. And Shane Watts for another pit stop out there as they're going to gas him up on his KTM supported machine. Off and rolling he goes, trying to make up what ground he can on that 4-stroke. Now, generally you don't see Wattsy on a 4-stroke, but it seems to be suiting his style, at least here today in the woods of Yadkinville, North Carolina, in this Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. So it's Salminen and Carney 1 and 2, and with Hawk back in 3rd at this 4-mile marker, Juha Salminen may not be counting his chickens before they hatch, but I'll tell you what, I know in the back of his mind he's thinking, I've got this championship sewed up, just ride a good, clean, smart race from here on out, and you should be able to take this one on home. Barry Hawk, on the other hand, kicking himself in the tail, saying, what am I doing, what am I doing, what am I doing? I think maybe Hawk might be thinking a little bit too much out there today, had too much of that, I could let Hawk clinch the championship on his mind whenever the kickstarts went down and the green flag flew at the first part of this 3-hour racing extravaganza at the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. Again, it's round number 10 of a 13-race series here in the 2006 racing season. This is your 2006 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship. And we're at mile marker number 9, headed for the checker flag and the finish of the Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC. And it looks like Barry Hawk will finish up in 3rd. And Juha Salminen not only clinches the win here, but also the 2006 and his 2nd consecutive Grand National Cross Country Championship title. And Antti Kalmanen knows that it's in the bag as he hugs his brother from Finland. And they embrace there and are celebrating, if you will. Glenn Carney celebrating his own style as this is the first and the best race that he's been able to finish in quite some time with a 2nd place finish. You can see that the fin of Juha Salminen smiling real big, and though Barry Hawk may be on the podium, you got to know that he is disappointed as much as anything as he is with his race day to day. You see him there talking to it with his wife, with Doug Whitmer, and you can see he's frustrated, and rightfully so, just having a tough day out there on the racetrack. And Shane Watts, he checks in that 4th place position, a phenomenal ride, but it definitely took a lot out of him as he actually collapses at the finish line. But Juha Salminen, he is walking on air right now as they celebrate not only the win of this Yadkin Valley Stomp GNCC and the Racer X Whole Shot Award, but also clinching the 2006 championship.
Yep. Champion again. How's it feel, man?
It feels good, you know. Still 3 races to go, and we can relax. You know, the pressure is gone. So, well, it feels really good, huh?
Yeah, I must. But with 3 races left in the United States, your career over here, you got the championship. Is anything going to change up these last 3 races?
Well, not really for me. You know, it's my job. I try to win and do my best every weekend. So, yeah, I have a title now, and still 3 nice race to go. So. It's good to go and make a good results and have a good end for the season.
What about this race here? It was close until 2 laps came out, and then what happened?
Yeah, it was. You know, normally I try to go fast as I can from the start, but you know, I tried this time too, but I made a couple mistakes and Barry catch me, and then we have a lappers and all those guys, and well, I just wait that the 2 lap sign was up, so then I plan to keep going and disappear.
Yeah, you got a big lead at that point. Did you cruise down, or you just keep that pace up all the way to the finish?
Yeah, last 2 laps I think I made good lap times over there, so there was not too many lappers anymore, you know, after the last 2 laps, so it was easy to ride and really nice.
Gotta be proud. There's a big crew of people up here. It's kind of cool, I'm sure, to have that kind of support at the races.
It is, you know, like we get. With the team, we took like the 1 step up this year, and the team has been working really good. Guys been giving for everything for me, and you know, thanks a lot.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I guess that concludes it. Juha Salminen is our winner for the 2006 Grand National Cross Country Series.
Yeah, definitely, Rachel. With 3 races to go, he wrapped up the championship here today in winning style, too. You know, Barry Hawk and Glenn Carney kept him honest all day long, and on the last lap, he just pulled out a little bit of extra and opened up a little bit of cushion and won it here today.
All the people you predicted to be up there today were up there.
Yeah, definitely. Glenn Carney with a good dry condition showed that he's going to be strong again, and he got a little bit of confidence rolling his way. Charlie Mullins had a little bit of bad luck. We expected to see him up there today. He had some bad luck, he wasn't. But Barry Hawk, we did expect him up there, and he did ride good. He had one little misfortune. I think he had a crash with 2 laps to go.
Yep. But
he was pushing Juha all day long, so it was a good race.
As always, we had some exciting racing, and we'll see you next weekend on Racer TV.
All right, thanks a lot, Rachel and Rodney. Also, thanks to Jason Wygant, as that'll do it for another round of the Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship. On behalf of all my broadcast partners, I'm Rodney Tomlin. Have a great day, everybody. The Grand National Cross Country Championship is sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association. Rights, Riding, Racing. AMA. Join now. Call 1-800-AMA-JOIN.